Do we know about Mr. Labange?
He's on his way.
He's on his way, okay.
And we're still waiting for the commission.
Okay. Okay, good morning, everybody. And it's Wednesday, and it's December 17th. Only a few days left. And we're in the Trade, Commerce, and Tourism Committee, just in case you're wondering what room you stumbled into. And I'm joined by Councilmember Rosendahl. Councilmember Labange is on his way. So let's start. Apparently our item 1 is not here.
She's not here yet.
Okay. Why don't we start with 2?
Under item 2, the Board of Airport Commissioners submits for council approval the consent to assignment and assumption of contract with J.C. Deco Airport, Inc. to operate the airport advertising concession at Los Angeles International Airport and L.A. Ontario International Airport. Under this consent to assignment, J.C. Deco wishes to assign its contract to joint venture for the operation of the advertising concession at LAWA LLC. The CAO also has submitted a report and recommendation for approval of the consent and assumption.
So basically, this was an original agreement with J.C. Deco, correct? And now they want to assign this lease to someone else.
Correct. Good morning, Madam
Good morning.
Chairman. Councilman Rosendahl. I'm Mark Medofsky with the Concession Services Division of LAWA. The action before you today is actually an administrative item which covers the consent to assignment, which was approved by the Board of Airport Commissioners last month. The LLC, which was mentioned, it's a mouthful, so I won't repeat it, is composed of J.C. Deco itself
Right.
and one of their previous subcontractors, J. Perez. That LLC was formed in order for those two members to perform as the equity partners in the deal. The third member of the original agreement, who was a subcontractor, remains a subcontractor. That would be
Baum and Curry and
Brown Curry
Company.
Yes, thank you. So the restructuring is actually to accommodate the two members as equity partners and share in the profit or loss of the concession.
To accommodate J. Perez.
Correct.
As an equity partner.
Correct.
Not the other one.
Just
Not
J.
Baum.
Perez and J.C. Deco itself.
Right, okay.
And their proportions of the LLC are in alignment with their previous participation as prime and subcontractor.
And why did J.C. Deco feel the need to do this?
Two reasons. Number one, it's more in line with the intent of the Federal Department of Transportation in terms of how joint venture are to be structured, how DBE participation is supposed to be structured in terms of equity partnerships.
Because
rather
they
than
didn't
as
have
mere
all that to
subcontractor.
start with?
They did, but the structure was different. They weren't equity partners; they were simply subcontractors. So the corporate structure is more in line with the intent of federal requirements. Also, not that it's prohibited, but it's more in
Right.
line
I mean,
with
that
the
didn't,
intent.
that didn't stop us in originally
No,
assigning the
no.
lease to J.C. Deco.
But there's also some tax advantages to the corporation for doing it in this way as well.
Okay. And is this is perfectly allowable? This is how we do things if someone wants to reassign their lease to a new entity?
It's fairly common, actually, so the board routinely takes up these matters as consent to assignments.
Now, what is the overall advertising program for this entity at the airport?
Well, the concession as it exists today
Yeah.
consists of two basic areas. One is what's known as the traditional airport advertising element. Another are marketing income initiatives, which are conducted by another partner, or not a partner, actually a subcontractor. A number of initiatives which have actually taken place over the last year and a half. What I've brought with me today that I can distribute to the committee are reports that J.C. Deco submits to us on a regular basis, which is basically a synopsis of major projects, revenues, and so forth, which will probably speak to the questions that you might have. And it's fairly detailed in terms of new projects, existing projects, their status, and revenue.
Yeah, do we get feedback from these companies in terms of our advertising opportunities at LAX?
We're always getting.
I mean, are we I think as we move forward to modernizing the airport, looking at new concession opportunities, those of us who walk through the airport always feel like there's a lot of, quote, dead space at the airport. Do these companies come back and tell us, gee, we could make a lot more revenue, you could make a lot more revenue if you allowed us to advertise here?
Absolutely. In fact, you'll see in the submittals, there's always some new projects coming online that are under consideration that have not been included with the traditional advertising displays.
What do you
Airport
mean by
advertising
by projects?
Airport advertising is sort of a unique niche in the out-of-home advertising industry. They're looking at opportunities, for example, of wrapping the passenger boarding bridges.
Yeah.
HSBC.
So
is
these
a
are
sponsor.
proposals to you.
Correct. And they go through a review process
Right.
internally at the airport.
And then how long is this lease for, this assignment of lease? This means that they can basically advertise in the airport for,
It's for the balance of the term of the
Which
existing
is-
agreement, which was originally a 6-year term with an option for 4 additional
okay.
years.
So within that, then they come back and start proposing ideas
Correct.
and for revenue for them and revenue for you.
Absolutely.
And then the board of airport commissions looks at
It
that,
doesn't
or do you
require
guys have
board
like
approval. It can be done
Okay.
with the executive director's approval.
Okay. Okay. And are we getting the revenue we need to get?
We're getting 70% of gross receipts, which they earn, which is actually far higher than their minimum guarantee. You'll see in the package that you received how they've already exceeded some of their targets for the first 3 or 4 years of the concession, and they're that far advanced in terms of what they've been able to achieve and sell.
Now, this 6-year lease, where are we within the 6-year lease?
We're about 1.5 years into it.
Okay, and then they have a 3-year option.
4-year option.
4-year option.
For a total of
Is
10 years.
this any part of the RFPs we're going out for concessions?
No.
They're separate.
They're separate.
So they get this no matter what.
Correct.
How many advertising companies do we have at LAX?
This is an exclusive contract, so
Well,
they're
they
the
get
only.
all the advertising.
The reason it was done as an exclusive contract was that if you have, in our research experience with other airports that have done multiple contracts for airport advertising, you have, in effect, 2 or more companies out there going to the advertising community saying, I represent this airport and I can get you this deal. And the other guy saying the same thing. In effect, that bids down the price of advertising.
So we've
and
always
results
just
in
had
less
one.
revenue.
We've always had one company out there.
This is the first time we've ever had
This is
an
the first
airport
time we've ever
advertising.
had airport advertising. How far out of the perimeter do they get? What's their territory?
It's basically just the terminal area itself.
Not coming into LAX, not any of the parking lots.
Technically, the contract covers airport property, so it could extend past it, but we've wanted to take a pretty slow approach to how we expand that, especially when it comes to outdoor advertising,
The runway.
the runway.
She's teasing, you know.
There's a lot of unused space out there
Yeah.
on the runways. But
We're taking off, and passengers look out there and say, Bud Light. This Bud's for you.
well, the jet bridge advertising is actually the first time we'd be going on the exterior of the buildings, so that's visible for.
But all that is within the purview, and the executive director or can decide where it's appropriate.
Correct.
Okay, that's interesting.
A few questions. Thanks for all that. You really
Sure.
fleshed it all out there. Did we go through a competitive bidding process?
Yes, we did.
Did you decide what space, where they would work with, or are we still open to that, or do they propose to you? How do we determine where we put up signs?
It was a 2-stage process whereby in their original proposal, they told us what they think would work from an advertising perspective. So they proposed specific locations and types of displays. We went through an internal review process and looked at each and every location and said either yes or no to that. We then told them that based on this plan, we want your best and final offers. So they came back to us a second time, and the final evaluations were based on that. The contract itself, though, does allow, as we said, the executive director to approve new additional locations or to remove them or to relocate them. There's been actually a lot of that being done recently in regard to the Tom Bradley terminal, where renovation and construction have caused the removal of some displays and the loss of revenue temporarily. And we're looking at new replacement locations where it's appropriate.
Do we stick our nose into the substance of what those displays might be?
We have a review process internally that takes a look at the content and approves or rejects based on the content. I have to say, up to this point, we've approved about 99%.
Do we look at potentially using that opportunity for public education issues, health issues, greening issues, climate, those kinds of issues to pop in people's?
There's a provision in the contract that says any unsold location, and it usually runs between 5 and 10% of displays that are unsold at any time, have to contain a public service announcement of the type you're talking about, or devoted to the city of LA itself. So we've had some promotional displays erected. Other nonprofits that are interested in having a display up there can also submit.
Welcome to Los Angeles. They do that kind
Absolutely,
of stuff?
yeah. They work with LA Inc. on that.
What's the possibility of a big photo op of the 15 council members? Because the diversity of our council is the diversity of our city. I've seen it in other places. We have the mayor always. But what about the city council, a display of 15 of us somewhere? Welcome to this, maybe a thing of the mayor and then the council.
Or that could be on the runway. We could all be like waving, goodbye, come again.
We could put Janice in the middle, Christmas look. No, but I'm serious about others than just the mayor. Have anybody thought about that?
We usually take direction from our executive director on that, and if you want to have that discussion with her,
I just put it
think
out there.
that's
See what they think about.
That's a good idea.
About the council itself too, because if it wasn't for the diversity of it, I think it's a great city, and it just shows the vibrance of who we are. Is there somebody here from JCDecaux?
Yeah, Steve McKelvey is here today. He's a vice president with JCDecaux.
I saw you there, and I figured with the visitor sign, you come all the way down here. Might as well get a Christmas tie.
I have the festive apparel too. So.
Yeah, I think it's very cool. You want to give us a quick conversation?
Get on a mic.
Introduce yourself.
And for the record, introduce yourself.
Steve McKelvey, JCDecaux, Properties Vice President. I manage the western half of the United States in our airport properties. It's 12 different airports. The overall view of the program is it's been extremely successful, far exceeded our expectations. We try to under-promise, over-deliver, but we have done even better than that.
Are you in
as
other
far as
airports?
Am I in air? Yes, we have 32 airports in the United States.
And how do we compare?
The closest comparative would be John F. Kennedy in New York, which we have. In revenues, they are, this year will be close to $22 million in gross revenues. So you are below that, but the consideration or asterisk should be noted that we have been at JFK for 18 years, and we've been here for just about 2 years. I firmly believe that we will, within the next year and a half, exceed JFK's numbers based on the international, primarily the international business that LAX receives.
See, what I'm thinking about, I'm just thinking out loud here, creatively, that we're in such a down recession and we have groups that need support, that if there's some marketing strategy that's a complement to our city and to some of our social needs, that we might creatively think of some marketing that could be of value.
One of the areas, Council Member, that we have looked at corporately to provide to the local municipalities is the digital element. The advertising inventory in airports has changed over the last 2 years, and we have a program where digital advertising through 70-inch diagonal LCD screens are throughout the airport, both on arrivals and departures levels. In the digital element, because you're not dealing with one static sign, you can have many different advertisements or messages. So that opportunity is certainly there through your direction and the Commission's direction. We could certainly make that available to you.
You know, and I was just kind of looking at some of the things you're proposing. Do you see other opportunities at LAX that we have historically not looked at for advertising?
Yes.
Good.
It is baby steps. We have to be, because you've never had advertising before, there is a conservative look at that, which is fine. What we typically do, and as Mark mentioned, the jet bridge advertising, so the exterior of the jet bridges and the interior, where we have a client, HSBC, out of the UK, the banking firm in the UK, is interested in the Tom Bradley jet bridges. So they've knocked on our door and basically committed 3 years at over $900,000 a year just for the Bradley terminal opportunity. Then we come to concessions management and to the director and with a formal presentation and the dollars attached to it. So as we get interest, especially if we can get a letter of intent from a prospective advertiser, we're much more energized to see that approved through the approval process.
There's also an upcoming program involving a sponsorship from Rolex watches, where they're going to be selling a number of new clocks at the airport, providing those for free and a cash contribution as well.
We try to look at the customer service or the passenger service as well, and that's part of the Rolex opportunity.
Okay, Nielsen, Albatron, they do TV, radio. Who does airports advertising?
Nobody.
Nobody. So how do you know your rates?
Supply and demand is the only way it's been for the 30 years that this business line has been in existence.
How do you know your rates on street work? And you do good street work with your pedestrian bus stops and whatever. You've got to know that if there's a board on Sunset Boulevard, it's more than a board on 6th Street, right?
There's actually, the service there is they consider traffic counts. We use a...
But like, is Terminal 1 different than Terminal International Tom Bradley?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to charge differently in that?
Yes, sir.
Got it, okay, good. All right, so that being said there, and I've been through a few airports in my day, I think this is important to be bright. I also think it's important, just to tag along what Mr. Rosendahl said, I don't think we need to be there. I think there's one mayor, and that's all right. I think maybe if you have Janice Hahn on top of the St. Vincent Thomas Bridge, maybe that's nice. Maybe, you know, you at Venice Beach, at Muscle Beach, Bill, without that sweater on, maybe, anyway.
How about with my shirt off?
No, I don't know. That's another question. Anyway, I would just say that I think I would like to ask that we find that there may be 24, and how many spots are there in the airport?
There are approximately 300
So let's say 24.
right now.
24, you know?
Yeah, I think
I've
there's
said
more.
24, but whatever it is, and maybe that's too high, but they'd be designated that, and not just back corridors, but some prime spots for special city facilities, whether it's our county art museums, whether it's our cultural museums,
Our port.
the port connecting it to the world, special messages. I think we should say that there should be a set aside of 10 hot spots and that are there that are rotating, whether they rotate, so they could be there. And also, some airports do have pure art in there. Who's here from the airport could talk about wherever you display art?
I believe that's done through our facilities planning group.
Right, well, you should know that before we come to Ms. Hahn's group there, because, you know, so I'm teasing you.
But in regard to...
Here's what I'm saying, there should be something out there that's just pure art as well.
I like the idea, though,
Well-
Tom, of what you just said about highlighting, you know, maybe 10
Yeah.
spots in LA.
Whether it's the Hollywood
I
Bowl,
like that. I think that's-
which is a county facility, or a county museum, Exposition Park, Venice Beach, something. Thank you.
Mark Adams, Los Angeles World Airports. Just to clarify, our art program is run by our facilities planning division, as Mark Medovsky indicated. They're not represented here today, and they work in close coordination with the Cultural Affairs Department for art placement, not only at LAX but also at Ontario.
Right, but would one of those, what would it be excited to say to the artist? How big is this space? Let's just say.
Boy, they vary.
Give me like 3 times the size of that screen.
Actually, the digital is very close to the size of that. It's
Size of
just
screen. What if we
slightly
said to the Cultural Affairs, we're going to give Cultural Affairs one of those hot shots spots for new emerging art and media. And then the artists know there's an opportunity for a vehicle there. You know what's interesting, and believe it or not, I think everybody, if you take their pulse, they'll say they're not necessarily a fan of the luminaries that bring you into the airport. Have you heard that at all, Mr. Rosendahl? You being out there?
You mean
But
light
it's
pin?
the iconic, but you know, in every picture around the world that I've seen back of LAX,
That's
they
it.
show those there.
Well,
So,
yeah. Well,
believe it or not, they've become somebody.
Right.
You know, and there's some things, so it's good. Anyway, I support the program. I'd like to ask that you identify, what's your favorite number between 10 and 25?
Well, what I would suggest, if I may, before
Yeah.
I
Favorite
answer
number. I
that,
want to do it right here.
we
Yeah.
10
have
and
the
25.
digital, utilizing the 32 or 3 digital units that we have, both in concourse and in baggage claim, that you utilize one of the spots on the rotations at each one of those, so that once a minute, approximately, you have a spot that comes up. And that way you can also integrate 100 different artists rather than one artist.
Okay, you figure that out. Okay, all right, you figure that out.
Right.
Let me ask you a question. Can
Three is
Gentlemen's
the
Club advertise there? Could Larry Flint advertise his casino in Gardena? Is that against? I just want to ask, because I see his billboards all over town. I don't mean to be so blunt, but that's a example.
They would love to, but we don't even bring that opportunity to you.
Got it.
So you
Okay,
don't
good. So we know that's not there. So.
And I'm about.
Good taste.
Thank you, and I think these are good suggestions, and I think they're wonderful. But I'm even about expanding your uses instead of like taking away for these suggestions. I say let's find 10 more opportunities.
Thank you.
And
You're on my Christmas card list.
Thank you. That's what I'm about, because I think it's just because we've never done it. I think, as you just said, you already are seeing the potential for advertising at LAX, and it's huge. And I think we're still probably under our potential and our opportunities. So I'm about expanding your opportunities and then using some of those for the suggestions that we're here today.
But what's your favorite number between 10 and 24? Just
3.
give me 3. So
actually my
13's a
favorite
bad number. So you just added 3. No. Come up. I'm just also, I want not just the digital thing.
Right.
I want 10 placements somewhere of a message that says Hollywood Bowl,
Right.
Exhibition Park.
Ms. Hahn, could we
Report.
San Fernando
could we
Valley.
approve this and ask them to come back in
Yes.
3 months with,
Right.
with thinking out of the
I think
box?
that's good. Why don't we, is there a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Okay, we'll have a unanimous approval of this and ask that maybe you come back in, what'd you say?
I said 3 months.
3 months, with maybe
3. You know.
three months with maybe incorporating some of the things you've heard today and how we might look to incorporate that at LAX.
Sure.
Good luck.
Ms. Hahn, if I
Yes.
might, what
Yes.
they've already done, in fact, is located in each terminal a huge welcome wrap, which artwork was provided for by LA Inc. It has a Welcome to Los Angeles message. Artwork was provided, which has illustrations, beautiful pictures of museums, Hollywood Bowl, and so forth. So there's one of those in each terminal already, and they provide that to us free of charge.
Wow.
Madam Chair, before they leave, just because Mark is sitting there thinking out loud now, everywhere I go, people have said to me, why does it cost us money when we sit at LAX to use our computers, our laptops? A lot of places around the planet let it go for free.
Yeah.
Just curious.
Well, the Wi-Fi, when it was developed as a concession, and I'm not exactly positive of. I know that you raised the subject in the past, the free
Right,
Wi-Fi
we have.
issue.
I've raised it too.
Yeah, and I'm not exactly sure where we are in our reassessment of that, but I know that you have asked us to look at that, and I do believe we have we owe you a report back on that subject.
Okay.
Good, Madam Chair. I'd love to have a report back on that. So many folks have said, so many airports are friendly and we cost money to use it. And can't we give a little piece of sugar to this?
Fine.
That was great because it came out of nowhere, the discussion.
I know, it was. Item 1. Item 1.
Under item 1, the mayor submits for council approval his appointment
You guys
of
like to take your conversation outside?
Ms. Vivian H. Lee to the Los Angeles Convention and Exhibition Center Authority for the term ending January 16, 2011, to fill the vacancy created by the mayor's removal of Ms. Monica Torrey. The City Ethics Commission staff have reviewed Ms. Lee's statement of economic interest, and they have submitted a report to the council.
Good morning, Vivian. Why don't you, I'll give you an opportunity to address this commission and tell us what you feel about this, what you think you can bring to this commission, and why
great.
in the world you'd want to serve on this.
Well, thank you very much for having me this morning. I appreciate it. I'd just like to introduce myself. I'm Vivian Lee, born and raised in Los Angeles, so grew up very familiar with the city. I would say, the main reason of really coming to this committee is that I think I bring a different perspective, a diverse perspective, having a background in community economic development, having a background in really working with diverse communities in economic development, helping revitalize communities, helping improve businesses. I think that benefit of experience will really add to the committee, to the commission, and giving that perspective and that knowledge and know-how. I think also as a resident of downtown LA now, it's
Oh, good.
exciting.
good.
So I've now moved into downtown, purchased a property in downtown, so I'm invested in downtown.
Very good.
So, really being now, this is my local community now, and exploring all of the revitalization that's happening is exciting. And to be a part of that and helping different parts of downtown be able to even grow and maximize their opportunities is exciting for me too as well. So I really think those perspectives will bring a strong voice to the commission and give a different perspective with all the other commission members in moving the commission forward.
Okay, well, this authority is the one that, works to finance different projects. We're in a very, very tough economy right now. We're looking to do revitalization, little modernization, little mini facelifts of the convention center. Are you looking at more innovative ways to finance these kinds of capital improvements, or what's your sense right now? Is this the right time to be doing that? Long time?
I think it would be a situation we would have to look at relative to the project. So depending on what's up and, where the convention center is looking, I do agree, we all know it's tough times. So taking on something has to be fiscally responsible, has to make sense publicly and privately and to the constituents of the community. So I think each project would have to look at it, each case-by-case project, because if it doesn't make fiscal sense, it's not going to happen. And it does also have to have community support and private sector support, everyone's support in order to make it happen. So I would say because of these economic times, because they're lean times, I would say we have to be even more prudent in looking at it, whether this makes sense, whether the economic impact will be relative to something that would help generate something right now to improve the economic situation on that part of it.
Very good. Now, is this the commission that Sylvia Robledo is the president of? Yes. Okay. You have a great president. I'm a
Great.
big fan of Sylvia's, and I think you are going to bring a great perspective and make this authority even more dynamic, and especially in these times. So we wish you well.
Thank you.
Very impressed with your resume. I'm looking
it's
at
a
what
good
you
one.
did
It
in
is.
AmeriCorps and over in Hawaii and all that. This commission also has something to say about the incubation process we're trying to create on the Century Corridor for a conference center.
Okay.
We're very excited about it,
Yes.
and a lot of progress has been made, especially when the voters approved another measure that allows more funding. It's a great dream that's going to become a reality, and we would like your support on it. We're beautifying the Century Corridor. We're supporting a living wage in the hotels, but we're also supporting a stop at the corridor and those hotels for opportunities there, not just fly through or downtown. The conference center becomes a convenient walking to location along the block. So I look forward to you taking a look at that.
Okay.
There's a lot of energy around it, a lot of support for it, and it would be great if we could actually have the corridor, the Century Corridor, as a destination point for people, and not just flight attendant types going through and going on to their next flight. And we have a bid there, the Gateway bid, that's very active with it. Your executive director have taken interest in it, and I look forward to your leadership with that as well.
Great.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Did you grow up in Los Angeles?
I did.
And where'd you go to high school?
I went to Rolling Hills High School, and then it combined into Peninsula High School, so I grew up in the South Bay.
South
you
Bay.
sure
Kid.
did.
South Bay
Which is
kid.
Great.
Yeah.
Good.
On the other side of Western.
That's
The other side of Western.
Yeah, they say Sepulveda, life is different. Also,
what we
with
in
Mr.
Pete
Rosendahl, just spend a little time looking regionally at some of the other facilities that are around, including the San Fernando Valley, and also globally in the sense of the Southern California where Anaheim, just to know where we are, competition and all that stuff. Thank you. You do have a very impressive background, and the way you speak shows confidence that we know that you're going to do a great job for the city of Los Angeles.
Great. Thank
Where
you.
you live downtown?
I live on 4th and San Pedro in the Little Tokyo.
4th and San
so,
Pedro.
you know,
Okay, good.
Very different neighborhoods.
Yeah, it
so
is.
we're definitely
Yeah.
trying to help that
Long way
neighborhood
from
as well.
Rolling
are.
Hills.
Yes. But, you know, enjoy it.
Good. Now, you know, just playing off of our J.C. Decaux discussions, I don't know which arm of the convention center looks at advertising or marketing, but you know that's I would think that would be a great partnership with LAX to market and advertise for our convention center.
Yeah, I think that's key. I mean, you know, especially when you're talking about right now the economic times being tough. So how really
Yes.
we, you know, navigate
Right.
through it is through partnerships and collaboration.
Right,
And
which is
especially
why
regionally.
this mini conference center, either on Century Boulevard, or we would like to see a conference center down on the waterfront. We think at this time we ought to be, you know, growing up, you know, baby conferences.
There you go.
So when they, you know, grow up and get big, it would be a natural to come to our convention center.
That's why that's why the hotels were built on Century Boulevard, and then they've outgrown that.
Mm-hmm.
But to look at that would be good, and even because buildings are so exhibition halls, and you remember Pan Pacific.
Yes.
You know, there's some ways you could maybe make smaller but interesting green buildings
Mm-hmm.
that have there, like the bubbles that they used to have at the convention center.
Right.
Which are spaced there. So there's a fabulous thing. And then the tie-in to LA Live, I think, is important too.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I mean, that's
Right.
one of the biggest opportunities.
I
Right.
don't know if people want billboards all around the convention center looking at the freeway. I don't think that.
No, I'm against that.
We're, whatever.
Works 2-1.
That's fine. Okay, well, thank you. Do I have a motion to
moved.
approve? I believe you're in council today.
I am.
So we will send you off with our good wishes, and wholeheartedly, we will recommend your appointment.
Thank you.
Okay,
Appreciate
thanks,
it.
Vivian.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item.
Under item 3, the Board of Airport Commissioners submits for approval the Sixth Amendment to a contract with HNTB Corporation for design and construction administration services for projects associated with the Southside Airfield Improvements Program. This is at LAX. The amendment would extend the term by 1 year, expiring on January 16th, 2010, so that HNTB can continue its work as engineer of record through completion of the SAIP projects.
Okay, we're running out of time. My first obvious question is, I thought the South Airfield improvement was done. Why do
Yes.
we need another year?
Intisar Durham, Chief Airports Engineer. Just for the record, I do apologize for not bringing pretty pictures for Councilman Rosendahl. I know you asked me last time to come in here with nice pictures to project. We don't actually the South Airfield project.
He likes the pictures.
The South-
He doesn't do a, he,
Words,
he
you
doesn't do a lot of reading,
I-
but he likes the pictures.
I agree. The South Airfield program, as you remember, was a program that had many components and many projects.
Okay.
Even though the runway and the center taxiway have been completed, and
Right.
actually,
Yeah, we had a
they
big
came in
ceremony
under-
out there,
Yes,
you know.
under budget. We came in $19 million under budget and on
Right.
schedule.
So what's left?
Some minor modifications to intersections, service roads, fillets on the north airfield, along the north airfield of the
But there's no
airport.
more funding that's needed for this contract. We already have it.
We already have the funding.
Okay.
It's just the issue that this work was scheduled to go in at the same time that the center taxiway was being constructed.
Okay.
Since that was delayed, kind of we had some rephasing. That's the reason we need
Okay.
the extension.
Okay. Questions?
Perfect.
Tom?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we will approve this.
Thank you.
Thanks.
you for what you do.
Yes. Pictures next time.
Okay, item 4.
Under item 4, the Harbor Department submits for information purposes only a report on its fiscal year 2008-2009 budget and capital plan per requirements of the City Charter and City Administrative Code. The department expects that it will use existing cash revenues and commercial paper if needed to pay for its capital projects this fiscal year. The Harbor Department's Executive Director and other staff are here to present and discuss their report.
Thank you. It's probably a lot to digest. And
Yeah, no, I know. I'll be real quick.
Okay.
Just 4 major points. Good morning,
Okay, good
council
morning.
members. I'll just give you a quick overview of our capital plan. I want to share with you our budget and why we recently revised our budget, and I want to kind of show you the implications on our budget as a result of the FMC not allowing us to collect the fee, and
Okay.
then talk a little bit about the economic conditions of
Okay.
the port. But one thing real quick, and this is something you may want to study when you have more time. This is our $4.5 billion capital improvement plan.
Okay.
And we've got a
Thank you.
little over $2 billion above this red line. Everything in yellow is under construction.
Okay.
And each of the columns, like we start out with terminal projects, we've got a column for security, transportation, waterfront.
Right.
The red line is the line of affordability. And so all the projects above the red line, we believe we can afford to construct over a 10-year period based on a very modest growth rate. And so that red line floats up and down depending on financial situations and our revenue and the amount of debt we can handle. And this has been a real useful tool working with our board, because sometimes our board will say, oh, let's do this or let's buy that. And I say, okay, if you want to put something up here above the line of affordability, we have to push a project down. And so it's a good decision-making tool.
Great.
So that will, and it helps us really prioritize our projects.
Just curious, this down economy last 6 months, have you noticed it?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah,
that's
she's
what I'm
gonna
tell you
talk about that.
Yeah.
She's gonna talk
Well,
about that.
big time is coming.
Okay.
If you look to the couple pages handout that we've
Thank you.
given you, on there, the first column is our adopted budget, and the second column is just the revised budget that we just completed. And you can see immediately we see a drop-off in shipping service revenue of about $30 million. And then you see what we have done in terms of our operating expenses. We brought it down to $216 million, down from $234 million. Basically recognizing that we were going to reduce revenues this year, we cut back on operating expenses because our goal is to keep the capital program going and keep
Good.
our debt coverage ratio
Right.
high. So you can see our bottom line pretty much the same. If you flip to the next page, though, it's our budget 09 adopted with the truck program in there. You can see we anticipated $110 million in revenue from our clean truck fee. We have not been able to collect that fee.
Right.
We're hoping if we can start by March, we can bring in $30 million. But down below, you'll see the nearly $60 million in cash outlay that we need to make now. And then you drop down to the bottom and you can see what it's done to our bottom line for this year. It's down to $44 million. So the inability to collect that fee is going to hurt our bottom line for this year.
But the fee was also to help. What was the purpose of the fee?
Well, the fee was basically for the grants and
Right.
for the incentives that we still have to pay out those incentives.
so you're still going to pay those out.
Right. So that's about $44
Okay.
million that we have to start cutting checks now.
Okay, so are you, because I just read I know we're skipping all around
Okay.
here, but I just read the article about some of the truckers, the companies who had invested in the clean trucks.
Right.
And we're saying now that they had them just sitting there because the fee was not being collected and the port was not kind of living up to their end of the bargain.
Yeah.
But you're
well,
saying.
in terms of the incentives, that money is going to go out even without the clean truck fee coming
Okay.
in. We made that commitment. We have to follow through on the commitment.
And what's the incentive?
That the incentive was the program where the companies that went ahead and
Right.
invested in clean trucks,
Right.
we gave them $20,000 per truck.
Okay, well, that kind of, you read that article, right?
There's been so many articles.
Okay, well,
but
there was one in it
what's
was in the
happened
Business
is-
Journal, and it was a company that went and invested in the LNG trucks.
Right.
A clean diesel, yeah.
Right.
And they had them sitting there because they said,
Yeah.
the port was not.
Well, we haven't been able, because of the federal government, to collect the fee.
Right.
And so companies who have invested in clean
Right.
trucks have higher operating costs.
Right.
And so they need that $70 differential
Right.
between
But
the dirty
you're
trucks.
living up to your commitment.
We're living up to the financial commitment that we made to the trucking companies for the incentives, and that's $44 million that's going out the door with nothing in. And then also the grants that we've we've got a whole slug of grants that we're putting out there, but
Right.
still no money coming in on that.
And we're not collecting it because there's a pending lawsuit.
We're not collecting it because the Federal Maritime Commission has held up approval of the collection
Okay.
mechanisms. And they should actually act on that tomorrow. They could approve it, or they could send back, 200 questions for more information and
Okay.
extend it another 45
But
days.
you were saying earlier you thought maybe by March.
Well, this budget now, as we revised it, we assumed that, okay, at least by March, and maybe we'd have some income on the program. But it
Okay.
affected our bottom line.
Right.
Now, what's going on right now, in the
Right.
last couple of weeks, the port customers came to me and basically said volume has cratered.
Right.
They said that, and I expect this month we're down 10%. For the whole year, we'll be down, calendar year, about 7%. First quarter.
What does that mean in
09
terms of TEUs? What are we still? What will come through the port this year?
Yeah, we're looking at maybe 7.9. We were up about 8.5.
So we're close to 8 million.
Yeah,
Okay.
but probably a little bit under that.
Okay.
Yeah, probably won't top 8 million. So we'll see how December goes. Well, the customers said first quarter 09,
What's the highest we've ever been, though?
8.5.
Yeah. So
8.5.
I mean, when you look at
Right.
it like that, we're still really high.
Oh, yes. Oh, I mean, we're still
I mean,
the
we
number
hear
one
gloom
port.
and doom,
Right.
but we're still.
Right.
That's still a lot of TEUs coming through.
Right. But what the customers have told us for first quarter 09 is a 20 to 30%
Yeah.
decline. And then Maersk, beginning in May, is
Right.
pulling out a service that could be 30% of their volume, and they're our largest customers. They are pulling out of Tacoma completely. They're pulling a service out of Seattle, and they are consolidating. No, service out of Tacoma, service out of Los Angeles, and consolidating in Seattle. Now, if you talk to some of the customers, they'll say a lot of things like, oh, it's more expensive to go through
Right.
LA and you have these additional
Right.
fees and things
Right.
like that. But, we're trying to work through that with the customers. So the budget that we revised was done before we learned about this potential downturn in 09, and we may have to go back in and revise our existing year's budget as well.
Well, let's say it was the worst case scenario was 30%.
Right.
Okay, I'm not doing my math, but
Right.
what would that be at the end of 09?
Well, a 30% decline in volume would probably mean a 15% drop off in revenue. So we're sort of trying
So we
to.
would be. I mean, how many TEUs would that be? I like to do it in terms of TEUs.
Yeah, okay, so.
What's 30%?
30%.
If that's the
of 8
worst,
million.
it may not be at the end of the year. We might
Right,
recover.
right,
So let's
exactly.
just say the worst case scenario is 30%. How many?
About a 2.4 million drop.
2.4 million TEUs.
So we'd be at
High fives,
high
5 to
fives.
6.
High fives.
Yeah.
When was the last time we were at high fives? What year?
Oh, gosh, that's probably
I think it's about 2000.
2002. or
2001,
something like that.
2002.
So.
I guess what we kind of already did that math, and we think it was in 2001 when we were at that level of TEUs, and your capital plan budget in that year was $374 million,
Right.
which actually was more
Right.
than this year's capital
Yeah.
improvement, which is $309
Well,
million.
we're not touching our capital budget.
Yeah, so I just
The
wanna
goal
always-
is to
yeah.
reduce operating.
Your operating costs have quadrupled.
Yes, our operating
What-
costs have gone up.
Yeah, they were 117 million in that year, and now they're almost 400 million.
yeah.
So, what do you account for your operating cost?
I would
Sorry,
say-
the 400 million. I'm not sure where you
No,
got that
she's
number.
asking about operating costs.
Right.
Why has it increased so significantly, say, since?
Right.
Yeah.
It's increased significantly, but it's
Why?
not 400 million.
Oh,
No,
not-
it's about 216 million.
Jenny
is
told me
what-
400 million.
Oh, no. No,
Huh?
216 million.
Oh, it's been cut this year.
Well, it was 234 million in our budget. We've dropped it back to 216 million. We may have to go lower, but we're holding now at 216 million, and we're going to monitor. A lot of this, the most recent significant increase in our operating budget has been in Port Police, because if you look at the entire staff in the department, if you exclude Port Police and our construction and maintenance group, the divisions basically have the same number of staff that they had in 2005. So the growth has been in Port Police, and then in
And they went from,
construction-
because what are we at Port Police right now? We're
We've
at
got
100
about 130 sworn officers, and we were like, when I came, about 80, and
Right,
the board wanted to
right,
double the
right.
number of
They
Port
wanted to get to
Police.
200, yeah.
Right, so that's an initiative
Right.
that's been underway, and we've
Right.
actually had to ratchet that back. They were growing too fast. They needed more supervisor levels. You know, you can't
Right,
bring in a lot of people at the
right.
bottom without supervisors.
Have-
The other issue,
Have you
Councilwoman,
put a hiring freeze on
we've
that?
basically cut back on hiring at this point, except for key positions. So we're looking at each decision we make in light of what's going on. The other point I want to make to you, Councilwoman, is in construction and maintenance, we increased our staff, but when I came here, we had a lot of people that were from the hiring hall that worked for us for years, that wanted to become port employees. They wanted to have the benefits. They wanted, it just didn't, and so we basically normalized them and made them employees. We were sort of keeping them in a position. I think it was sort of inconsistent with where we're going in our truck program, like employees benefits. And
Right.
we had something going on there that.
So how many
you know.
employees do you have now?
So we're budgeted for about 1,000 in like
About
34
79.
or one-
1,000 I mean,
okay.
we're budgeted for 1,079. We're presently at about 1,000. a little
You have
over
1,000 employees.
Yes.
Right.
How many employees we have didn't we have like 800
Yes.
when you came?
We had about 800 and
So
change.
we've added 400 employees. I mean, no, 200
Yeah,
200 employees.
in bodies, yes. And it's been in Port Police, if you add 50 sworn officers,
Yeah.
in addition to that, you have all the administrative people that go
Right.
along with it.
But the majority of that
So-
you are saying is in public safety.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, because the rest of the divisions have been static since '05. We may have moved people around, but essentially they're
How many were
static.
these, as you said, the casuals that have become full-time?
Oh, that was at least, 20 to 30 or something?
Maybe closer to 50.
50, yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
in 2000 fiscal year 2008, that just ended in June. That particular fiscal year, we increased police staff by about 42, and we increased construction and maintenance staff by about 44. So just in that 1 year alone, you almost increased staff by
Right.
about 100.
Well, I mean, I think, and you can have some questions. Is there anything below that red line that I'm going to not be
There's-
happy about?
Well, just to point out some things for you, the North Harbor cut, the one that's, we have the 3 harbors in the waterfront
Yes,
plan.
yeah.
The one that the board would not do if they opted to select some of the alternatives,
Right.
which focuses on cruise at the existing location.
Right.
That's below the line. And
Okay.
the other one that is of interest to you is the red car. 160 million expansion of the red car line is
Right.
below the line. And
Right.
my strategy has been and actually, I really need to give you a briefing on the whole red car feasibility study, because
Right.
it basically said if you move this into a more friendly transit type step on, step off red car, you can go for other sources of money. You can make I call it the Don Compton connection up to, either up North Gaffey or up through Wilmington to the Harbor subdivision, and then ultimately have a transit line that can go to downtown LA or to LAX. So
So it's not considered right now hop on, hop off.
no, we have those big platforms,
Right.
the elevated stations. You have to climb up.
I don't know how
That's
Bob
why-
Henry feels about the step on, step off.
Yeah. Well, it works for handicap too. 'cause
Right.
But in order to get it through downtown,
Yeah.
we have to rip out what
Right.
we put in now. That was what the feasibility study said. I was shocked when I saw
Yeah,
that.
I'm not,
so,
feasibility studies,
no. But
These feasibility.
they are what you say they are.
But I think the director has a
Well,
great point.
Yeah.
It was looking, when they built the red car originally, it wasn't looking long-term
Right.
at what it could be.
Right.
And so
Right.
this was a study to look at
Right.
what is its potential. You can either
Right.
keep it the way it is,
Right.
keep it local, or you can go this other route
Right.
and make it.
Which I think, and I think, you ask some stuff, but I think for me, and really I think for the city, even Jack Kaiser said the port should continue with their
Oh, gosh,
capital
yeah.
improvement
Right,
projects. I
right.
loved it. And part of what he said was not just the terminals and the infrastructure for cargo, but the waterfront. I mean, Jack Kaiser, who's the key economist, said the waterfront development is key to economic development, not just for obviously San Pedro and Wilmington, but for the whole city of Los Angeles. It's our own stimulus package. It's going to create jobs. Long term, it's going to create an opportunity for tourism. So I kind of don't want to see anything under the red line that has to do with the waterfront development. I think that is being very short-sighted. And again, when you look at your capital improvement budget, when you were at the same level of TEUs, it was, you know,
But
not
they had
that much
entitlements
different than.
Right.
Well, here's the thing.
No, let me just finish. You know, I just can't stress enough that the waterfront development and figuring out the red car is key to move forward, because when the economy does pick back up, which I'm sure it will, you know, we want to have all that infrastructure in place, ready to go. It's our stimulus package. I just can't, you know, stress that enough, that I think, you know, I would look at my operating cost.
Right, and that's why we're
yeah,
we're
I know,
focusing
and you
on
are,
that.
and
Right.
but I
'Cause
kind of
every-
don't want to see anything under the red line
Right.
that has to do with the waterfront. We've waited way too long for this. You're finally making progress. Don't stop now. It ripples to development in downtown San Pedro. It ripples to, you know, people building condos, living there. It's created more retail. I mean, it's happening. It's moving. Don't stop now, because, you know, I think if you tried to pick it up later, whether it's the water cuts or whatever, honestly, I just want you to crunch.
Right.
Do
And I
not stop the waterfront development.
Above the line, if you look at the dollar value, the waterfront has the highest dollar value above the line. But this is $2 billion worth of work and about $1 billion of the waterfront above the line. So,
Right.
you know,
One of
there's
the things
only
that- yeah.
so much construction that you know, there is the line of affordability, and the reason why you cut operating is for every million you cut operating, we can take on 10 million more
Right.
debt for capital.
Right.
So
I
that's
just
what we're
think we
trying to
can't
do.
afford not to do
Right.
this waterfront development. One of the things I would urge you to do is, apparently everyone's going back to the new administration and putting in
Yes.
proposals for a stimulus package.
And that's the red car's in that.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I think
So-
your waterfront development should be in that. You know, as much of it as could be, to hopefully to get help from. It is a stimulus
Yeah. No,
package.
we were
It
pretty
absolutely
much-
is.
no, I know,
For
but
Los
we were geared-
Angeles, for San Pedro, for Wilmington, it's our own stimulus package, that waterfront development.
Yeah, we were geared towards putting infrastructure projects in, so we put the red car in there because they were looking for those types of projects.
I think, again, tourism is the second largest industry in Los Angeles. We know that for every 4% increase in tourists, that's $12 million, Tom, to our general fund. And you know what general fund dollars mean.
Oh, I good.
But
Okay.
if we get
I would
if we
just-
get money for projects that I mean, if we increase our chances of getting money for projects by putting in more traditional infrastructure, then the money we're going to spend on that we can use for some of the other things.
And I got it. I don't know if you've been to Bordeaux, France, but they did transit in the historic port that works to the neighborhoods that make sense. I'm looking at Bob Henry, who has such a great heart in that red car project. There should be some transformation, and they could be they call them skins when they do an older building and they put new skins on them. They put a new design on the building. You could put a new skin on that to lower it, so you could just
Oh, yeah. We
you could
can
do the whole
modify
thing, but it
the
makes a lot of sense. I think what Ms. Hahn is pushing. One thing I haven't, and I wanted to mention to you, Ms. Hahn, because I'm visualizing all these challenges. There's a potential third rail to the Alameda corridor, correct? There's a third rail. There's two rails that go with the
Well,
Alameda
there's a
corridor?
proposed project, a third rail across the Cerritos Channel, and there is already a third track.
There's three
in the
rails. There's
Alameda
three
we should
tracks.
we should bang hard at MTA to get third rail passenger service to Long Beach Express LA, something like that on that third rail, especially if the port is going from transformation. If we know that one of those third rails could be, because if you go from Union Station to there under 22 minutes, if there's no stops, you could bring people back and forth at some times. I want to think that way just to look at the opportunity. Infrastructure is so important. And also, again, the connection of LAX with tourism, the greater South Bay, San Pedro, Long Beach is so important. I thank you. This is a very good document.
it is.
You know,
Very
a very
good.
good document. And I know there's a few things under the line that upsets
Yeah, right.
Ms. Hahn, but I think we got the right direction. We just got to keep pushing harder and find other ways to transform these things.
And we can
in.
move things above the line, and then you got to maybe put something.
Okay,
below.
I'm going to
So
look at
it's-
this. I'm
it's
going to look at some of the
something
things
that-
I can
It's
see.
a tool to work with,
Good.
to prioritize.
A couple
and we can
people I
work
might
on
want to
that.
put below the line.
In my notes.
You know, I know we're running out of time. One of the things I would love to know about is just Cabrillo Beach quickly. I don't know if anyone is here prepared to talk about it, but I know that the port was getting $6 million from the water board for cleanup efforts. You know, I had Ralph Appy in here and
Yeah,
kind of
right.
said, do it. Just clean this beach up, because that's another thing that's helpful with tourism and bringing people to our neck of the woods is a clean beach.
That's correct. Mike Christensen, Deputy Executive Director. We have really two things going at Cabrillo Beach. One is completion of the sand replacement.
Right.
We're ready to go pending receipt of a water board permit. We
Right.
hope
So
to
is
get
that part of the
next couple
$6 million that the water board gave us?
months. Yes.
Okay.
And that finishes out the beach
Okay, the
cleaning.
sand.
That's the one you're talking about.
Right.
The larger one is the Cabrillo Beach Enhancement Project, which we plan on putting out to bid
Right.
in the March timeframe.
You know, one of the things, Geraldine, that I really kind of pushed Ralph Appy, because it was like, we think we know what to do to finally clean that up, but we've just been doing it incrementally. You know,
Yeah,
like we
right.
put a small pump in and it didn't work. We think it should be a big pump.
Okay.
I said, do the big pump. You know, do the bird diversions, as many
Yeah,
as you
right,
think you need.
right.
I think my point was, I feel like we've
Okay,
been taking
it's
these
going
baby
step by
steps,
step,
and
yeah.
I said, you have the brightest, the smartest engineers and scientists and environmental people in your department. I really do believe that. And I think, you know, they know what to do, but they've been hesitant to just go all out. I'm saying, you know, do the big pump. Let's clean up that beach area, because I think that is just a real dark cloud over us when we keep getting that F from Hill to Bay. And I think young mothers, you know, they take their kids there so they don't have to worry about waves, and you know, but then now they're going to have to worry about, you know, toxic, you know, hazards for their kids. Let's really, I think your people know what needs to be done. I don't know the total price tag, but it just feels like we've been doing baby steps, and we should just do the bold moves that will finally keep that beach clean.
Propo money?
It's Propo. We have huge Propo
You
money.
have a
That's
Propo thing on this here? You should probably list that.
Yeah, well, the green is grants
Grants.
on there. So
Propo
yeah.
on the green?
Cabrillo Beach was sort of the poster child for
should be in there.
Propo.
Yeah, right.
Not on this.
It's what I think it made a lot of people want to vote for that, because that was a real visual Mother's Beach, you know, and it's polluted. We can clean it up. So I think your people know how to do it. That was my message, was let's do it.
All right.
Okay, anything
we'll go
else?
back and look at that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Happy holidays to everybody.
Yeah, same to
really,
you.
the port has been doing a fabulous thing on Friday nights down at their incredible fountain, where they have singing groups, they have music, they have Santa Claus. It's brought given people a place to congregate during the holidays. It's
Yeah.
exactly what I envision. They are selling hot dogs and hot chocolate. It's unbelievable, and I really want to thank the port for doing that. It's fabulous.
And we have chairs.
We're
this
hoping for
Friday
chairs
night.
Friday
I threatened to bring my kids over, and I would set them up with my
Yeah,
kids.
I will
and
do
the
that.
chairs
Yeah, okay.
materialized.
Okay.
Good job.
Yeah, you have to
Okay.
come. Yeah,
Madam
Yeah, you
Chair.
should come, Tom.
to that.
Yeah,
You're approving item number 4?
we're approving it. Okay. Thank you.